Ladies and gentlemen, Congressman Steve Scalise.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Now, please. I appreciate the warm reception, and for all of you who prayed during that time too. I felt the prayers, and I thank you for the prayers. There are actually people up in Washington when you have a tragedy, and we pray for families. And now some on the left are criticizing those of us who pray. And let me tell you, as somebody who received those prayers, they helped lift me up. They meant a lot to me and my family. Please continue to say those prayers. Thank you for those. I want to tell you a little bit about why I'm here. I'm here because Danny Tarkanian stood up and said, I'm willing to put my name on the ballot and help fight to get this country back on track. And with you saw Amy coming out here introducing them. What a team Danny and Amy make. How about that, huh? We need good people to run for Congress. And here in this congressional district, the 3rd congressional district of Nevada, you have a great candidate in Danny Tarkanian. And all that's missing now is for enough people to keep going out, talking to your neighbors, talking to your friends who haven't made up their mind, maybe even that made up the wrong decision, and they want to go on the other side because they just don't know the difference. This is a time to know how important the difference is between the two parties in Washington. And let me tell you, there could not be more clear lines. If you look at what Danny's fighting for, Danny's fighting to help President Trump move the American First agenda. And what is that agenda? That agenda is cutting taxes and putting more money in the pockets of families. In fact, you just saw, because of the tax cuts, we're seeing millions more jobs get created. We're seeing the lowest unemployment in every sector you can imagine. Lowest unemployment for African Americans in the history of the country. Lowest unemployment for Hispanic Americans in the history of the country. More people right now looking to hire than there are people looking for work. That doesn't happen a lot in the history of our country, and it's happening right now. And it's well, if you listen to Barack Obama, the economy is doing so well. Barack Obama showed up a couple of weeks ago trying to say it's because of what he did. Imagine that. For 8 years, we had the lowest growth. We had less than 2% growth every single quarter for 8 years. That's just unbelievably pathetic. And yet, just coincidentally, a few months after Donald Trump gets in office and starts getting rid of some of these radical regulations that Barack Obama put in place that were killing our manufacturing jobs in this country, trying to kill the coal industry, kill what makes America great. Finally, President Trump comes in and starts reversing it, and we start seeing the economy take off. Barack Obama, if you want a lesson in economics, I'll be happy to show you the data that backs up why this is happening. You put more money in the pockets of families, y'all know what to do better with your money than Washington does. And there are important things that need to happen. We need to provide for the common defense. And by the way, we just passed a bill working with President Trump last week to finally rebuild our military that Barack Obama had decimated. Danny supports that agenda and his opponent doesn't. Why is that important? Last year alone, we lost more men and women in uniform in training missions than we did in combat. Think about that. And it was by more than a 3-to-1 margin. More men and women in uniform died training to go fight battles than actually died fighting battles in foreign countries. That's how bad our military had gotten. And so when President Trump said, I want to rebuild the military, that's what he was talking about. Now, it doesn't just happen by waving a wand. You actually have to cast votes. And so the Democrats were not supportive of doing that. We finally were able to get an agreement and get it passed. But Danny supports that agenda and his opponent doesn't. That's an important difference. The tax cuts that are working so well to get this economy going, Danny wants to make those tax cuts permanent, which, by the way, some of them expire in a few years. Why not keep them going? Do you think we should make them permanent? Well, I'm glad because Danny agrees with that. Unfortunately, his opponent doesn't. Nancy Pelosi wants to take that away. What did Nancy Pelosi call those tax cuts? I forgot. Crumbs. I mean, imagine this. Right before Christmas in 2017, Donald Trump's not even in office for a year, and we bring him the bill that's going to finally make our country competitive again. We were the most uncompetitive country in the world. We had the 35% rate, corporate tax rate, highest in the industrialized world, and we're watching company after company leave America. We can sit around and go, America's the best, America's number one, we're number one. UNLV was number one when his dad was coaching. But America had lost its place as being number one. And you saw it. Millions of jobs leaving this country. And you can stand around all day and call them names, or you can just pick up the phone and call them. I would do that. Why are you leaving? Every single company said the same thing. America's not competitive anymore because the tax rate's too high. Imagine that. You raise taxes like Barack Obama did, like Nancy Pelosi did, and wants to do again. You raise taxes so high that companies leave or they go bankrupt because this is a global economy. And so President Trump says we're going to reverse it. So now we didn't just bring it down to the world average, by the way. The world average is 23%. We went down to 21%. So we are working to become number one again. And it happens by policies. It doesn't happen by just hoping and dreaming and getting a Nobel Prize for showing up. And the world's less safe, by the way, after that. The world's more safe today. We're standing up to bullies. President Trump is standing up to Russia. He actually, when Barack Obama said no to the Ukrainians, our friends, the Ukrainians said, Russians invading, they're sending in tanks. We can't stop the tanks. Will you sell us the missiles that bust the tanks? Because we have them. And they didn't. And you know what Barack Obama said to our friends, the Ukrainians? We don't want to get involved. Now, when you're Switzerland, not getting involved is who you are. When you're America, you are the leader of the free world, and you stand behind your friends and you stand up to the bad guys. And Barack Obama said no. Well, right when Donald Trump becomes president, what happens? Same phone call. The Ukrainians said, President Trump, will you sell us the missiles that blow up the tanks? Guess what Donald Trump said? And guess what happened? They started blowing up the tanks, and Russia stopped invading the Ukrainians. What did he say to Kim Jong-un? Here's the guy who, for decades, Republican and Democrat presidents alike were just looking the other way while he's developing a nuclear weapons program, threatening all of our allies in the region, all around the Pacific Rim. And then he starts threatening us in Israel. And Barack Obama sat by and just said, let it go. Gave Iran the pathway to a nuclear weapon. President Trump came in and said, you know what? He called him Rocket Man first. They called each other a few names. Kim Jong-un said, I got a button. What did President Trump say? I got a bigger button. Y'all heard all this stuff before. And everybody said, oh boy, what does he say? And guess what? Everybody, all the bullies around the world know what that meant. There's finally somebody bigger than me that's willing to stand up and punch me in the nose. And you all know what happens when you punch a bully in the nose. And yet Barack Obama was letting the bullies run roughshod all around the world. In Russia, in North Korea, in China, in Iran. And finally, he's standing up, and we're seeing the results. He just stood up to Canada. They're our friend, right? They're our friend. You try selling dairy products or ag products into Canada. You can't do it right now because of the old deals where they were taking advantage of our country. You're a friend, but you don't take advantage of your friends. And so Donald Trump finally said, we want to trade with you. He just got to deal with Mexico. Now, how about we actually get a deal with Canada? Canada said, oh no, we like our deal. Yeah, because you're taking advantage of us. That's not right. Good trade deal. You deal in business. You're all business people. It's not a good deal for you if you walk away and you just took the person to the cleaners because they're never going to deal with you again. You want it to be a deal where you walk away and it's good for you, and your friend walks away and it's good for them too, and then you're going to do business with them in the future. We just got a new deal with Canada that's good for America. Nancy Pelosi doesn't want to keep that going. This is where it ends, right here in this district. If Nancy Pelosi is able to hold this seat and Danny Tarkanian doesn't win this race, Nancy Pelosi, that is her path to becoming speaker again. What does she want to do as speaker? Raise your taxes, abolish ICE. Danny's opponent, by the way, wants to abolish ICE. Danny wants to strengthen ICE, strengthen our border security. Danny actually wants to build the wall. Do y'all want to build the wall?
Build the wall.
We need more supporters of President Trump's agenda. Danny was the first one to stand up for President Trump here in Nevada and say, you know what? This is the guy we need to get behind. And ultimately, when it was Trump against Hillary, there were still some people that were getting a little skittish. Danny never wavered because he knew what the differences were. You're seeing it with this Kavanaugh fight. Kavanaugh needs to be on the Supreme Court. He deserves to be on the Supreme Court. He's a man of integrity, and hopefully by the end of this week, he will be. But we can't let the folks that want to reverse all this success win. This is a winnable seat. I'm here because this is a winnable seat. I don't go to places where we don't have a chance. I go to places where it's a tough battle, and this is a tough battle. Y'all are tough people. Y'all know how to deal with tough battles. I'm from New Orleans. We know how to win tough battles. You know how to win tough battles. Danny and Amy are ready for this battle. They know how to win this fight. We all need to be all in. Y'all know that term. We need to be all in to win this seat. It's a winnable seat. We've got the right candidate, because you can't win just with anybody. You know, they've got a leftist agenda. We've got somebody in Danny Tarkanian who wants to help go fight for this great Trump agenda, this America First agenda that's going to get our country back on track. Let's keep making this country great. Look how fun it is to see. Anybody who wants a job can go get a job now. That wasn't the case 5, 6, 7 years ago. You had a sluggish economy. You had people moping around. Geez, is America ever going to be anything better than average anymore? We don't accept average. When you talk to General Mattis, our great Secretary of Defense, Secretary Mattis will tell you, I don't want to go into a fair fight. I don't want to go into an even fight. I want to be able to dominate my enemy. If there's a bad guy out there, if there's a bully around the world, you don't want them to be equal to you. Barack Obama wanted us to be equal to everybody else. Guess what? Our allies around the world don't want us to be equal. They want America to continue to retain that spot as the leader of the free world. We're finally getting back there. We're getting back there through tough, hard negotiations, through policies that are working to get this country back on track. Now is not the time to go backward and let Nancy Pelosi take it away. You can help determine that by electing Danny Tarkanian to Congress and telling all your friends, more importantly, because you know what's at stake. You know how great Danny is. You're going to support Danny. You're going to vote for Danny. But every one of you has friends. Every one of you has friends that aren't yet there. So I challenge each one of you to go find 2 or 3 of your friends this week and talk to them about what's at stake. Talk to them about the differences. It's not just about personalities. We can all be nice guys and girls. But if you're voting the wrong way, you're voting to turn this country around back to the way it was. That's not the direction we want to go, but that's the direction that we will go. That's the difference between Danny and his opponent. So I appreciate what y'all are doing. I'm here because I know we can win this race. Let's go win the race. Let's get Danny in Congress and get Amy up there too. Thank y'all for what you're doing. Here's our candidate, Danny Tarkanian.
I really appreciate that. I was getting pressure from the Secret Service. They were telling me, you got to get him out of here. They were coming to rescue. So thank you so much for coming out here. We appreciate it. Thank you very much. We're going to ask you to go to another event so we can take off. We're going to continue with some speakers, myself first, and again, thank you very much. Thanks. All right. I'm so excited to have Congressman Scalise here. He's one of our favorites. My wife and I say that all the time. He's one of the really down-to-earth Congress people. For the youth that know my father, when he was a basketball coach, a lot of the really famous basketball coaches, they didn't like to be around people. They would, get up in their ivory towers. My dad loved to be around people. He was a people person. Congressman Scalise is the same exact way, and we're very thankful to have him here. So he's leaving now. I'm going to give you a little bit of my thoughts on this evening, and then we're going to have a couple other guest speakers here. Niger's here, he's going to speak, and then Wayne Allen-Root. Is Wayne here yet? Okay, so great. Okay, so let's get started. First of all, this has been an amazing 3 weeks for me. As many of you know, I've been involved running for office and involved with the Republican Party for quite a few years now. Never have I experienced the type of support that I've gotten in these past 3 weeks here. How many of you were at President Trump's rally? That was like the highlight of my political life. Imagine getting up in front of at least 10,000 fans, being able to speak before the most powerful person in the world, and then for him, our president, to issue those nice comments that he had about us. And then afterwards, his son and Kimberly Guilfoyle come out, and they did a great event for us the next week. And it was a wonderful event. We had a lot of people there. And I'll tell you, it was amazing to watch the electricity that they were able to generate for that event, and the enthusiasm for our campaign from that. And then Congressman Scalise called us, was it just about 2 or 3 days ago, right? Just recently, and said, hey, we're going to have this event here. It's hard to do them one after another because many of you guys have already contributed and been hit up so hard. It's not like we're trying to take advantage of you, but I mean, when do you have a chance to, this is the third in command of Congress, and he may be the next majority leader. Don't tell that to McCarthy, but he will. He's a great guy, though, and so for us to have him here was really wonderful. And then we found out yesterday that Vice President Pence is going to host a fundraiser for me in Washington, D.C. on Thursday. So it's, listen, they're coming to bat. They know this is a district that we absolutely should win as a Republican Party. It's a district that's been in Republican hands 7 out of the last 9 elections. It's been in Republican hands every non-presidential election. I think they see that we're running a very, very good campaign. They are helping us to get the enthusiasm out here. They also know that if the way we go in CD3 is the way Dean Heller's going to go in the Senate and Adam Laxalt in the governor's race. So this is a very, very important seat, and that's why we're getting the kind of support we're getting. So very, very thankful for it. I don't really have a whole lot else to say, except I want to say from the bottom of my heart, so many of you guys have been big supporters of mine throughout the years, and many going to one event after another these past few weeks. I want to thank you. I believe that this is going to be a chance where we're going to make this the greatest political turnaround since Abraham Lincoln. And we're going to make something really positive out of what's happening. That being said, I'd like to invite the orators coming up here to speak. I speak from the heart. I give you what I really feel in with my emotions. Wait till you hear these guys. They're the ones that get you enthused. I'm going to get Nigel Ennis up here first, and I always love listening to Nigel. Thanks for coming out here, Nigel.
I'm glad I'm going before Wayne goes. I've been a friend of Danny's for several years, since I came out here about 10 years ago, Danny and Amy. And when Danny walks in, after he wins in November, and he walks into the United States Congress, swears on the Bible to uphold the Constitution, he's a Rhodes Scholar. He's going to double the IQ of the entire United States Capitol. I gotta disagree a little bit with Danny. Danny keeps saying he lost in 2016. He did not lose in 2016. Certain elements of our Nevada Republican Party lost in 2016. Never in history did you have leaders, elected officials of a party go against its own presidential nominee. Never in history. And it was that implosion that doomed a better candidate and a person that'd be a better congressman. Well, a person that did not abandon President Trump was Danny Tarkanian. I say it's because of the 3 C's that are a part of his essence: his courage, his character, and his commitment. And that is the leadership that he's going to bring to Washington, D.C. You see these walk cards on your tables, and you see the promises that are made on paper. Well, with Danny Tarkanian, having known him the years that I've known him, he has a stubborn commitment to the people of Nevada. And that's the leadership and commitment he will bring to Washington, D.C. And let me tell you, folks, it comes at a time that one of our major political parties, so-called Democrat, I call them the communists, or the socialists. They can call themselves socialists. But what unites them more than anything else is not principle, it's not the American dream, it's not love for our Constitution or our founding documents, it's hate. It's hatred. Hatred of white men, hatred of men, hatred of the other, the X. X marks the spot. This group of radicals would love to bring our country towards a second civil war. And that is what this election is about. The stakes could not be higher. I have a great deal of confidence in Danny. I know what he's going to bring in uniting our Nevada Republican Party, uniting our Republican Party generally, and saving the single greatest country in the history of mankind, the United States of America. God bless you, Danny. Can't wait to see you in Washington. That's it.
I'm going to be the MC today. I thought he was going to introduce me. Where's War at? All right. Now, the last thing you guys will do is not to be attending for the next 10, 15 minutes. So, one of the great speakers in Southern Nevada, maybe nationally, Wayne Allen Root. And I'm very thankful that Wayne's been very supportive of my candidacy over the past, since 2016. So Wayne, take it from here.
What are you talking about? I've been supporting your candidacy since the day you were born. What are you talking about? I've been with Danny forever. So look, if you happen to listen to my show this afternoon, I'm going to talk about the same thing that I talked about on the show. I think we're in a great position. Everything has changed. You've been brainwashed day and night by the media to believe there's this blue wave coming, There's no blue wave coming. There is no blue wave. If any of you were around me in the last month or you listened to my radio show, you know I've talked about the fact that there was this district in Texas, State Senate District 19, and it was in Democratic hands since the Civil War Reconstruction, 1879, and it went Republican 2 weeks ago on Tuesday. And it's an all-Hispanic district facing the Mexican border. You know, again, it's Texas, so people think no big deal, it's Texas. 400 miles up against the Mexican border. A very Hispanic district, and as Hispanic and as liberal Democrat as it comes, and we won the district. And so here's what happened. In the last 2 weeks, I've seen a sea change that's almost breathtaking. Just yesterday, if you saw my column on Brett Kavanaugh in the Las Vegas Journal, thank you. And by the way, my newspaper columns are going nationwide on October 15th, national syndication. Thank you. But even when they've been in the RJ, almost every one of my columns gets picked up by Real Clear Politics, which chooses the top 15 most significant newspaper columns in America every day of the week, and almost every column I write gets picked up by them. Well, Sunday's column, which the RJ often changes the headlines. They leave almost every word I write, but they change the headlines because I like Trump, I write kind of controversial headlines. And they get a little scared, right? So I wrote, I'm Brett Kavanaugh, you're Brett Kavanaugh, we are all Brett Kavanaugh. And they didn't write that headline. But they put that headline at Real Clear Politics. And I got hundreds and hundreds of letters from people all over the United States in the last 24 hours. And every letter tended to say the same thing. I expected, hey, love your stuff, agree with you, blah, blah, blah. That wasn't what they said. Most of them were from women who said, I'm a Catholic woman, and that could be my son, and I'm never voting Democrat again. They've blown it. I'm telling you, it's over for the Democratic Party. When I said this when Trump was running, people thought I was crazy. People like Danny Tarkanian are getting in this cycle. We are going to win these elections. Every close election, we're going to win. What came out today? Heidi Heitkamp, North Dakota, U.S. Senate, incumbent Democrat, woman, attractive, popular, moderate, supposedly moderate. You know, when they say moderate, votes Democrat only 80-90% of the time. Moderate, according to the media. She's down by 10 points to a nobody, to a guy never heard of. 10 points down. And she hasn't been 10 points down for the campaign. She's 10 points down in the last 2 weeks since the Kavanaugh hearings took place. I'm telling you, everything has changed. Kavanaugh was the best thing that ever happened to Danny Tarkanian, best thing that ever happened to Donald Trump, best thing that ever happened to all of us. People are writing off and walking away, you know that name, right? Walk away from the Democratic Party. It started out with a gay Democrat in New York. He's been on my show 3 or 4 times now. He says hundreds of thousands of gays across the country are walking away from the Democratic Party. I speak to people every day who are black, who are Hispanic, who are gay, who are Jewish. They're walking away. Kavanaugh is the catalyst that has changed everything. What's happened to him is disgraceful, disgusting. Some of the things I've learned just in the last few days. Just give you an example. So the gal who said that he gang raped her is now walking back that statement and now said in an interview on NBC today, she was at a party and she saw him at the party. She has no idea if he spiked the drink. She saw him near the drink. She never saw him participating in any sex with anyone. She just assumed he might have been involved. This is how far these statements, how wild they get, you know? It's like someone who says, you know, there's a chance of an inch of snow, and 5 people later, someone is saying it's the worst blizzard of all time coming. This is what's going on. The woman at Yale, who was a blackout drunk, was lying on the ground and some guy has exposed himself to her. She called 20 classmates to ask them, I think it was Brett, I think it was Brett. Was it Brett? Was it Brett? All 20 said, no, we don't even know what you're talking about. But she went ahead and said it's Brett, okay? The GoFundMe account of Christine Blasey Ford has now raised almost $1 million. What does she need $1 million for? Didn't her lawyers say they're working pro bono? Yeah. So what's the motive? I think maybe the motive is making $1 million. You become the most famous liberal feminist woman in the United States of America, and you're named as a hero to all the wonderful women who march at events with pink vagina hats on their heads. It is frightening, man. It is frightening. And here's another issue that has not come out in the media. So this does not appear to be like an internet rumor or anything like that. This is a fact. Christine Blasey Ford wrote 8 articles supporting the abortion pill for a pharmaceutical company that has a multi-billion-dollar net worth on Wall Street. That company's entire company is based on one product, the abortion pill. I think it's RU 146 or 486, wherever it is. I wouldn't know about abortion pills. I know very little about things like that. I haven't had an abortion in many, many years. And I can state proudly in my whole life I've never been involved in an abortion in my entire life with anybody, anywhere, anytime, and wouldn't be. I believe in the sanctity of life. So, but I must be anti-woman, right? Even though half the babies are women being aborted, I must be anti-woman because I'm a Republican. Democrats who believe in the abortion of children's lives, half of whom are women, oh, they love women. Aren't they just wonderful? So she wrote 8 articles supporting the efficacy of the abortion drug for a company's only product to create a multi-billion-dollar net worth on Wall Street is the abortion drug. It's their only product. And today it says on her LinkedIn page, she reports that she is an employee. She's the director of, I think, research for this company. So talk about a motive. If you were to overturn Roe versus Wade, her entire company would be out of business tomorrow. Her salary would be gone. Her stock options would be worthless, right? You wouldn't be allowed to use an abortion pill if abortion is illegal. So this is 100% about a massive conflict of interest that the media refuses to mention. And then finally, I'll bring up one more very important point in her testimony, besides the one I noticed right away, which was, I couldn't come, I almost didn't come, I had to drive across the country, I'm afraid of flying. How'd you get to Europe? I flew. How'd you get to Alaska? I flew. How'd you get to Tahiti? I flew. You seem to have a hobby that involves going all over the world. How'd you get there? I fly. I mean, incredible that nobody cared. Was that the worst prosecutor in the history of mankind? That's who we hired. You almost thought that it was hired by Nancy Pelosi and Dianne Feinstein. Worst prosecutor I've ever seen. But okay, but here's the big one. She made a point of saying, Christine Blasey Ford, that she had this recollection. She had blocked that out of her mind, and it came back. All the moments of the attempted rape came back, flowing into her mind in 2012 because she was doing a remodeling on her home. Did you hear that? Yep. And she decided to build 2 doors because she's so afraid of men that she needs 2 front doors. And she didn't care how bad it looked, she had to have 2 front doors. And they now have pulled the building permit. She built those doors in 2008, not 2012. What's the significance of 2012? How did she manage to go to her psychiatrist in 2012 and bring up that there was a rape? Because in 2012, Mitt Romney was asked, if you're elected, who would be your Supreme Court nominee? He said, my top choice is Brett Kavanaugh. So this was a setup from day one by a gal whose life is abortion, whose life and whose money depends on abortion. And second of all, I didn't know this. One of my own listeners pointed out to me, Planned Parenthood ran full-page ads in newspapers all over the United States in April of 2012. And they showed the 9 Supreme Court justices, and they showed a 5-4 vote that would overturn Roe versus Wade and end abortion in America. And this is the damage that will be done to women if Romney's elected. And they superimposed a picture over the face of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who they said could die or be retired any day now. What picture did they put on her face? Brett Kavanaugh. All that happened in 2012. That was her recollection of Brett Kavanaugh. It had nothing to do with any event that happened 36 years ago. It had to do with a person whose entire life is a belief in abortion and pink vagina hats with a Trump derangement syndrome, who believed that Brett Kavanaugh could be the next Supreme Court justice as early as 2012, which is why she thought, smart lady, she went to her psychiatrist and brought this up, and went to her husband and brought this up without names, just so she could then insert his name when the time came and she needed it in order to make $1 million and become famous and get book deals. It's really embarrassing. It's absolutely incredible and embarrassing that this is our country today. We live in a banana republic where no one questions anyone. And I said on Twitter while this was going on, while this hearing was happening, you can go back and look at my Twitter account, and I said, worst prosecutor I've ever seen in my life, didn't ask a single tough question, didn't put her on the spot once, let her get out of every single corner she was in. And I said, now it's halftime. When they come back, watch the way they change hats, and there's no respect for Brett Kavanaugh, and they try and destroy him. And that's exactly what happened. So it's, as Niger said, it's open season on men. There's a hatred for men that I've never seen. And in particular, I think all men, but in particular, white, straight, Republican men. A hatred like nothing I've ever seen. And it all ties in with this whole, vagina hat thing. It's crazy. These are women that just don't like men very much. So, listen, I think what's beautiful about the Republican Party is I love women, I love men, I love gays, I love blacks, I love Hispanics, I love everyone who works for a living. I love immigrants who work for a living, right? I love immigrants who come here legally and work for a living. I have nothing against anybody. And the Democratic Party has now become a party of haters and racists. If you heard Hillary's comments today, anybody know what Hillary said? She said in an interview today, Donald Trump, old stuff, he's a racist, he's an Islamophobe, he's a sexist, and he's a homophobe. And his fans are all excited by those views, and he gets them excited by giving his racist views every day. This is how they feel about us, right? This is what they really think. When in reality, when I look out at this crowd, I don't see white, I don't see black, I don't see Jewish, I don't see Christian. I see people who all pay taxes and work their butts off for a living, and they're sick of being used every day by our government to rip you off, to redistribute your income, and give it to people who don't work simply because those people vote Democrat. That's how you buy their votes. That's what I see in front of me. Every Republican event I go to, I see the hardest working, salt of the earth people in the world who don't hate anybody. And if they wanted a good employee, I at one point had 150 employees. Let me tell you something. I didn't care if the man in front of me or the woman in front of me was white or black or Jewish or Muslim or Christian. I only cared, could they sell? It's the only thing I cared about. Could they be a great employee? And if you're a great employee and you're black, I love you. If you're a lousy employee and you're white, you're fired. It's that simple. And I don't know where they ever got the idea there's racism in the Republican Party, because there is none. What there is a love of work. And in all my books, I've said, if we could get a candidate, if we could ever get a candidate, and it turned out to be Donald Trump, who would base everything they do on any given street. There's someone on one side of the street that works, busts their butt, gets up at 6 in the morning, like my dad did every day. A butcher who got up at 3 in the morning and went to the freezing cold meat market to pick out the meat, and then went to work for 12 hours a day and wouldn't let me step near the butcher store because he said, someday you're going to Columbia University and you're going to be an important man in this world. You're not even allowed to step in my butcher store. That's a great man. And if you could have a presidential candidate on the Republican side who makes the point that if one side of the street someone works and the other side someone sleeps till 12 noon so they can get up late, wait for the mail so the welfare check comes, and watch Jerry Springer and Dr. Phil. If you could make a case that America's got to be about the one who works and that the one who gets the welfare check is fine. I don't hate them. I'm not against them. They've just, if they're able-bodied, they got to work for the welfare check. They got to work for the food stamp check. They got to work for the Medicaid check. If you could get someone to make that point, we'd win the presidency and we'd take over this country and we'd dominate all levels of politics. And Trump came along, and that's what he does every day, right? He's trying to make sure that you're eligible for food stamps, welfare, Medicaid, anything you're eligible for. It involves work. There's got to be a work requirement. I don't mind you getting a welfare check. I just mind that if you're able-bodied, you have to go out there and do something for that welfare check. And then you have to try your best to find a job. And if you can't do that, you should get kicked off the rolls. And that's what the Republican Party is all about. As my dad said 40 years ago, a wise butcher with a white apron with bloodstains. The Republican Party isn't the party of the rich. It's the party of anyone who ever wants to work to get rich. And the party of anyone who wants their children to be richer than them. And that was what happened in my family, and that's what's happening in families all over this great country. Mobility and opportunity. This country is the greatest country in the world, where the son of a butcher today went from a little local Vegas radio show to now national syndication and to national TV, and to Bill O'Reilly's my partner on national TV every night, 5 nights a week. Bill O'Reilly's with me 3 of those 5 nights, and to 80 million homes now able to tune in on the show, and now my local newspaper column, national syndication. And here's the latest announcement I'll make real quick. Starting this Sunday, I'm the only guy in the United States who has a national political talk show on TV and a national sports show on TV. I just got picked to host a CBS television fantasy football show every Sunday. I taped the first episode last Sunday, and it airs this Sunday, 12 noon East Coast, 9 o'clock here on CBS Sports TV. Only in America, man. I'm 57 years old and I'm hosting 2 TV shows. That's never happened before, I'm telling you. So lucky I work out every day and take care of myself. So look, we have to elect Danny Tarkanian. We have to elect Dean Heller. I'm much more of a fan of Danny than I am of any other Republican. But we need Dean Heller. No, but we need Dean Heller. And we need Adam Laxalt, right? We need the entire Republican ticket. Because if not, can you imagine our state would have Jackie Rosen as U.S. Senate and Mastro as U.S. Senate? Can you imagine that combination? Would be like Dianne Feinstein and Barbara Boxer, right? We'd be California East. We'll be the same state. And I want all of you to understand, I ran for my life from California, escaped from California 17 years ago. I ran from that damn state. And if this, and I thought this would be my state for the rest of my life. And I love Las Vegas, and I love Nevada. But if we elect Sisolak as our governor, and if we elect 2 liberal senators like that by adding Jackie Rosen to the mix, and if we elect a terrible person like Susie Lee in my congressional district, where Danny is going to be my next United States congressman, but if that were to ever happen with Susie Lee, I don't know if I want to stay. And that's really sad, right? Because if I stay, then you've got a national TV host representing your values from Vegas, and a national radio host representing your values from Vegas, and now a national newspaper columnist representing your values from Vegas. And if those people get elected, then you're going to have a host representing your values from Wyoming. So I'm headed to Jackson Hole, baby. I'm not staying in the state that becomes California East. Not going to happen. So we have to fight with everything we've got to elect Danny, and to elect Dean Heller, and to elect Adam Laxalt, the whole crew, whoever I'm leaving out, Roberson, and all the way down the line, Barbara Savasky, every single level. Secretary of State, so important, Barbara Savasky, because that's about voter ID and letting the right people vote on every level. But all of them I'm voting for, all of them I'm fighting for, all of them I'm supporting. But there's only one I give my heart to, and that's Danny Tarkanian, because he's the best Republican I know. Danny Ryan. Look at Danny there. We got Andy. All right, so I'm saying goodnight. I hope all of you have a great night. So my voice doesn't come out here. It's time for Andy to step up. Danny Tarkanian will make the best United States Congressman Donald Trump ever had. Thank you, guys.
I don't know whoever thought that he had enough energy to have a second